Alright, quick disclaimer. If you're under 13, I suggest that you either get parental supervision while you watch this, or ask your parents before you watch it. Also, I recorded the world and then voiced over. It will not be like that for every episode, just this first one. Thank you and enjoy the episode. Alright, so you guys can already tell just by the start of the video that this is something completely different from what I normally do. It is not Cobblecraft, it is not Fortnite, it's not Last Life, it's nothing like that. I wanted to try something new. I wanted to share something I'm very passionate about. And people ask me all the time why I follow Jesus, and I want to make something completely clear from the start that I am not religious. I do not believe in titles, systems, and groups. I'm not talking about Christianity. I'm talking about the figure of Jesus himself and why he logically makes the most sense to me and when I'm thinking about existence, the universe, and why anything exists at all. Now, this world I'm going to play on roughly every Sunday and try to make the most progress as I can while sharing the gospel. Now, before I share why I followed the teachings of Jesus and why I think you should, it only makes sense to actually talk about who he was so the people that haven't really had a background or just have never really learned about him know who he is. Jesus is a real man who lived in the first century in a small region under heavy political pressure and cultural tension. He came from a humble background, born into a working class family, raised far away from power and influence. He was not rich, and he was not a ruler, and he did not have many armies and or money behind him. And yet his impact is unmatched. No one on this earth or in the sky or anyone that you know has had more impact ever than him. The power of his words, the clarity of his mind, and the consistency of his character. Most people in history gain influence through his authority. Jesus gained influence by who he was. The earliest accounts, people describe him as someone unusually wise, unusually compassionate, and unusually logical. People who met him and spoke to him with an authority no one else had. Not the authority of systems or institutions, but the authority of truth itself. He challenged corruption, defended the weak, raised the moral standard higher than anyone had before, and taught in a way that went way past traditions that directly hit at the human heart. And here's what stood out. He didn't describe himself as a teacher. He spoke like someone who understood the deepest structure of reality. He talked about the purpose of existence, the nature of good and evil, the meaning of life, and the density of human beings with the clarity no one else had ever had. He said things like John 3:16, "For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have eternal life." He was presenting himself as the link between existence and its source. He understood that the universe as if he had insight into the eternal, the root cause behind all causes. And that fits perfectly with the logic idea that someone eternal must exist for the universe to be here at all. On top of that, his personal life matched up with the teachings perfectly. No scandals, no contradictions, no abuse of power. He lived what he preached. Even people who dislike religion often admire Jesus himself because he's one of the only historical figures whose actions, character, message, and purpose all line up without any inconsistencies. He wasn't pushing any labels at all, to be honest. Just telling you that. He was offering a way to understand existence, purpose, morality, and destiny on the deepest level of things. And that's why, for me, Jesus isn't a character or a historical name. He's someone whose life and teachings logically link together everything we experience: consciousness, morality, meaning, and the universe itself. Now that I gave some background on who Jesus actually is, I want to address a very common argument that the universe created itself or that quantum fluctuations made everything happen. Now that I gave a little bit of background on who Jesus actually was, I want to get into a very common argument that is the universe created itself from nothing, or that quantum fluctuations made everything happen. But quantum fields aren't nothing, they're something. They have rules, structure, and energy, and something cannot create itself if it does not exist yet. The idea that the laws of physics wrote themselves out of nowhere never made sense, and honestly, if you really think about it, just isn't that logical. And if that didn't make a lot of sense because I was talking about quantum fluctuations and quantum fields, I'll put in this analogy. I came from my mom. My mom came from my grandma. My grandma came from my great-grandma, and so on and so forth. For us to happen, something would have had to have been eternal. And people who say the Big Bang, it made us happen. The matter and everything that happened at the Big Bang had to have come here somewhere because it can't just poof out of thin air. Now, I wanted to real quick take us back to John 3:16. Like I said earlier, just to repeat it, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believeth in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. We're talking about intention. This verse shows purpose. It shows the existence isn't random, chaotic, and or accidental. It suggests that the source behind reality acts out of intention, not accident. If the universe was really a random explosion, purpose would not exist. But purpose is real, meaning is real, consciousness is real, and the figure of Jesus speaks in a way that lines up with the intentional creation rather than randomness. Now, like I said earlier, I brought up the verse John 3:16. Now, because we're talking about this topic, I want to go back to it. I'll restate it real quick, and then I want to explain why I'm going back to it. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whoever believeth in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is because it's talking about intention. This verse shows purpose. It shows that existence isn't random, chaotic, or accidental. It suggests that the source behind reality acts out of intention, not accident. If the universe was a random explosion, purpose wouldn't exist. But purpose is real, meaning is real, consciousness is real, and the figure of Jesus speaks in a way that lines up with the intentional creation rather than randomness. Now, I want to bring up another verse that can tie into this sort of. Romans 5:8. But God commandeth his love towards us, and that while we are yet sinners, Christ died for us. Now I'm still talking about intention. Purpose and love do not come from random explosions or accidental chemistry. They come from intelligence and intention. The fact that humans even understand love and morality points toward a personal source behind its existence. Random reactions cannot produce moral consciousness. Now I want to take a moment and just highlight my favorite verse and something that really made me want to learn about the Bible. It is Genesis 6:6. And that clearly states, Jehovah read that he had made man on earth, and his heart was deeply saddened. This shows emotion. Emotion means personality, and personality means intelligence. Just for a little bit of overview, right after this, he decides to flood the earth and tell Noah to build the ark. So if you ever heard Noah's Ark, it is in Genesis, if you all want to read it. Now, I want to answer a few questions that a lot of atheists seem to have, or points that they seem to bring up. Now, this one is, who created the creator? And this is one of the most common arguments, because if something created the universe, then who created that something? That question only makes sense if the creator's inside of time, but time had a beginning. The cause of time had to be outside of time. I don't know if that makes sense, but you just stay with me here. Anything inside of time has a beginning. Anything eternal does not. Asking who created the eternal source is like asking what color is a circle. It doesn't match its category. Jesus talks like someone who's outside of time, who fits the logic of the eternal cause of an eternal cause perfectly. Now I want to respond to this one. Jesus is just a story. Some people say Jesus is just a story humans invented, but humans don't invent explanations that are more complicated and more challenging than the easy options. Humans create fairy tales, not eternal source theories that align with physics, moral consciousness, purpose, and existence itself. The way Jesus speaks the truth, existence and eternity does not sound like a myth. It sounds like someone explaining things from beyond the limits of human knowledge. Now, this video was way shorter than I thought it was going to be. There will be other episodes coming out every single Sunday, but I want to wrap it up by saying these main points. For me, it comes down to something eternal has to exist for anything else to exist. Nothing can't create something. Consciousness doesn't come from chaos. Morality doesn't come from explosions. Purpose doesn't come from randomness. And order doesn't come from accidents. And with that all said, I'm going to cut to the end of all the footage because this video is only 10 minutes long and I had 23 minutes worth of footage. So we're going to do something that I probably haven't done before. We're going to split this into a two-parter. These first 10 minutes are going to be what I just said, And the second part is going to be the next episode special. And then I'm also going to have a normal video coming out just so a little bit of progress can be made. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an absolutely magnificent day. And I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.